Okay, it says we are live. Hello, hello. I hope you guys are doing okay and had a great discussion. I know we had a lot to talk about. And fun to follow Cindy Rollins, not. But I've been following Cindy Rollins for a while now. So, hey, I was the one elected to do it. But that was a great talk there. And I'm just going to let you guys come back in and gather back together and get ready, those of you who are doing our groups, to move on to the next thing. So as I was getting ready to come up, they were starting to lay out the lunch things downstairs, which I thought was particularly cruel because I don't get to eat until after I get done speaking, which is really not fair. Okay, so I am going to be talking today about laughter, and yet I was told I was not allowed to do stand-up comedy, which I think is probably a good thing, but there you go. It was kind of a tough topic for me to think about. It's not because I don't laugh. In fact, I laugh quite a bit, and this was never driven home to me quite so much as looking at pictures that have been taken of me over the past couple years. It's like, I really do laugh a lot. I enjoy laughing. It's something that I think is cathartic. It's something that I think is something that makes me feel good. It's one of my favorite things. But it's not something that I necessarily think about or like to think about because that kind of takes some of the fun out of it, honestly. But what I do know about laughter, when I started thinking about it, what I do know about laughter is that it is good because we are made in the image of God and we laugh and therefore He laughs and everything about God is good. So I know that we're starting from a place of good when we're talking about laughter. But today, I want to take laughter just a bit more seriously, and I want to really dig deep into some ideas that maybe you haven't considered about laughter. This was some stuff that as I started thinking about, how can I take a practical approach to laughter? Because practical is kind of what I do. How can we look at laughter and start thinking about it a little more seriously and come out on the other side with some insights about it? So I can tell you right now that my talk is not going to be a theological talk or anything like that, but we're going to approach it from a very practical side. And what do those ideas mean for us as we take what we're learning here this weekend and begin to apply it in our lives, and especially in our homeschools? Because we're hearing all of this stuff, and if it's anything like downstairs, everybody's nodding their head and saying, oh, this is a really great point, but what do you do with it? Where do you take it? So I'm going to start by talking about the 5 needs of laughter and what laughter needs in order to flourish. And I really want to point out that these are probably not the only needs of laughter that we could come up with, but they are a good place to start. And I know that these are not the only needs because I kept sitting downstairs going, oh, I could think of another need, or I could think of another need. So there's a lot more that we could add to this, but these 5 are a good place to start. And then once I'm done with that, I'm going to share 5 other things that I've learned about laughter during my exploration of it over the past few months. I've become kind of a reluctant student of laughter, but I've been studying it a little bit. So what else have I learned about it as the past few months have gone on? And then how understanding these benefits and characteristics of laughter will drive home the importance of it in our lives and how we can allow it to flourish in our lives. So I want to start with the needs first. And the first one is perhaps one of the most basic needs of laughter, but it's probably one of the ones that we often forget or push aside. And this is that laughter needs time. So if you're trying to develop a culture of humor and goodwill in your homeschool day, this is not going to be done if your schedule is jam-packed with a million different things to do. So we run from co-op to soccer, to classes at church, and we're always so busy. But in order for laughter to flourish, we need time to build connection with each other. And we're going to talk more about the importance of that connection later. And actually, well. But a lack of time creates high levels of stress and anxiety and attitudes that are the exact opposite of what is important for laughter to grow. In fact, if you're short on time, you might hear yourself saying absurdities like, "We don't have time for this nonsense." And you don't because your schedule is so packed. But is that a good thing? In order to flourish, laughter needs a lack of outside imposed restrictions on time. So, for example, you need fewer things on your schedule so you can take the day slowly, enjoy one another's company, and not worry so much if you spend a few extra minutes laughing instead of working. But also, in order to flourish, laughter needs a lack of internally imposed restrictions on time as well. Even if you don't have to be anywhere, are you hurrying through your school day in order to just get done? And in doing so, are you missing the opportunities to stop, to connect, and to laugh with each other? So, this is something for us to think about. Now, another thing that laughter needs, and I was like gritting my teeth downstairs because Cindy was totally stealing my thunder on this one. I thought it was like the best one ever. But it's right up the Charlotte Mason educator's alley. Laughter needs ideas. And in fact, laughter just thrives upon and depends upon ideas and learning. I mean, let's face it, you have to have the knowledge to be able to get the jokes. As some guy once said, there is nothing new under the sun. And in fact, this plays out so often. Our culture and the humor of our culture is steeped in Shakespeare, knowledge of classic stories, and cultural knowledge, which I have to tell you, homeschoolers sometimes miss out on. I'm just saying. And even classical situations. You need those ideas to be able to get the laughs. The more you read, the more well-read you are, the more you're able to laugh and get the jokes. So take puns, for instance. It's hard to explain puns to kleptomaniacs because they always take things literally. Or who does Polyphemus hate more than Odysseus? Nobody. Am I right? Seriously, the next time your kid asks you, why do I even need to learn this stuff? The answer is obviously so you can get the jokes. Now, the next thing that laughter needs, so this is the third need of laughter, is laughter needs lower stakes. And this is where underachievers can take a really deep breath and be proud for once. Laughter requires a willingness to allow mistakes in ourselves and in others. This is the only way to create an atmosphere where laughter is going to be able to flourish. So, how are you doing with this? Do the kids know that it's okay to mess up and laugh at themselves and try again? Is this an attitude that you encourage in the home? And is this an attitude that you model regularly for your kids? Because if you're not able to laugh at yourself and take yourself less seriously, then two things are likely happening. First, there isn't much laughter going on at your house because people are afraid to do it because nobody wants to make mama mad. And second, nobody is learning not to take their own selves too seriously. Life can be a bit absurd, and serious cannot be the correct response to the absurdities in life because that's just going to be sad. So, how do we model laughter for our kids? We have to realize that laughter is a daily choice that we make. Even in times where we don't feel like laughing, in the deep sadness of our lives, even when we feel like we're controlled by our hormones, we can choose an attitude of laughter each day. just like we choose to love even when it's hard, or we choose to stay calm even when the world is falling apart around us. Were any of you the class clown in school? This label is more often applied to boys instead of girls, I think. Girls were more often like the teacher's pets. But it's possible in a crowd this big as all of us here that we have a few class clowns among us. Now, being the class clown is usually a negative designation, to say the least. Sure, the kids snicker and laugh, but teachers are usually pretty uptight about the interruptions. These are like those internally imposed restrictions that I was talking about earlier. And they don't like that lack of seriousness. But think about it. Outside of school, in the real world, using humor to diffuse sticky social situations, making other people laugh, spreading joy, this is typically seen as a positive thing. People enjoy the life of the party, the people who make them laugh. Being funny in real life is almost always a good thing. So, where does the problem lie? Does the problem lie in real life, or does the problem lie in the setting in our case? So this is why the next need of laughter is freedom from rules. Don't make the rules of the homeschool so strict and unforgiving that no one can ever crack a smile or feel like it's not the time to lighten the mood with a joke. And hey, if you're feeling a little defensive or convicted, good. I'm doing my job right. Is your home a place where laughter is respected and valued? I'm going to pause for effect here. So we're going to talk more about why it needs to be those things in a few minutes. But do your kids know that it's okay, more than okay, to have a really good laugh? Do you encourage it instead of discourage it with your words, your body language, the volume of your voice? And I'm speaking to the choir here. I'm speaking to me. This is what I need to hear. This is what I had to start thinking about as I started laying out this talk. The next time your kids get out of hand, ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen if it takes us an hour to get back on track? What if we just enjoyed each other for a day? Would it really be so bad? So I get asked when I talk about play and laughter, what to do when the kids take it too far. But can they? Really? Is that the real problem, or is it just our perceived problem, seeped in this long-standing ideas drilled into us for years by the system that we participated in of what education should look like? Something to think about. So there's a laughter researcher. Her name is Sophie Scott, and I actually looked at a lot of her work as I was preparing this talk. She's done a ton of research on laughter, and she explains the next need, that children learn to laugh primarily through play. So play is a need of laughter. And it's funny, when you think about play, many of the activities that kids engage with could either be seen as play or aggression. So think about it. Have you ever seen boys with wooden swords or wrestling? What differentiates between play and laughter? So you know, or play and aggression, excuse me. So you know that it is play and not merely aggression, is the laughter. How many times have you stopped to listen to all the noise to see if it was a happy noise or a not so happy noise? I mean, this is a very fine line here often, and laughter is the difference. I can beat you over the head with this box, but if I'm laughing with you about it, it's play. If I'm not, it's abuse. The laughter is the determining factor. So for kids, laughter and play are inherently linked. And play is necessary for kids to learn the ins and outs of the social construct of laughter. It's really fascinating. We need play. So how can we bring more play into our homeschool day without it becoming just one more thing for us to do as moms? What can play look like in our homes without being a lot of extra work for us? And I've given some of these ideas before, but I think they bear repeating. So if you've heard them before, just kind of bear with me. And if you haven't, hopefully you'll get something really good out of here. But one of the ways we love to bring play into our homeschool is with music. We love to dance coming in and out of our homeschool day, and sometimes even during our homeschool day. We have something in our house that's called a chore boogie. And this is where we're going to turn on upbeat and joyful music as we do the chores. And I'm doing the chores with the kids. And in fact, it can be made even more fun by challenging the kids to be done with their chores by the time the song or the playlist is over. You can even make like a multiple song playlist for your kids to listen to while they're doing the chores. I gave this talk a couple years ago in South Carolina where I was talking about my chore boogie. And a few months after I gave the talk, this mom emailed me and she said, my husband would like to know if you have any more songs to add to our playlist because the kids are doing such a good job with the chores. He wants to make the playlist longer so they'll do more work. So it would totally work. You can make that playlist as long as you want it to and get even more stuff done. I often use music to transition into our morning time or our school day. Playing one song and tells that they need to be in place and ready to learn when that song is over is so much better than walking around the house yelling that it's time to start school, that it's time to do morning time, which sets a completely different disposition for the school day. The next way to add some laughter and some play to your homeschool is to use games. So if we're using the chore boogie as a race against the music, that's awesome because kids love any kind of race. It doesn't have to have anything to do with music. So if you know you have kids who can take the competition well, turn things into a game. So if we need to find Brazil on the globe, I'll beat you across the room to it. For some reason, seeing moms scamper across the living room trying to get to the globe first cracks them up. I can do your multiplication drill in less time than you can. And you would be amazed. You can really earn some great credibility with your kids. You can do the multiplication tables as fast as what you can do them. So those are a couple of ideas for games. And I'm sure that you guys during your discussion could come up with even more ideas for games that really don't require a lot of hunting on Pinterest or printing things out. Those are not the kinds of games I'm talking about. I'm talking about the little lighthearted things that you could add to your day. The next way that we love to add play to our day is by pretending. So when I was teaching inequalities to my youngest, I was getting out the index cards and the markers, and I was about to draw the alligator mouths on the index cards. And I know you guys have done this, where the alligator eats the biggest number. Well, I realized that we actually had an albino alligator stuffy that we had gotten from a river aquarium in Georgia. And so we got out that little albino alligator stuffy, and we got a couple of little Minecraft stuffies. Some of the little ones, I think the little pig and the little green dude, whatever his name is. And we put them on the table, and we got the unit blocks from our Math UC curriculum. And we set up each and every problem on the worksheet where he would give this little stuffy this many unit blocks and this little stuffy this many unit blocks. And then the alligator would decide which one had more and just like devour the stuffy that had more unit blocks. My son thought this was absolutely hilarious. He loved it. He thought it was wonderful. It was a great way for him to play. Well, that was probably when he was about 6 years old. Fast forward 3 years later, he's 9. He's working through his math book, and Math UC works in review later on, and he comes across one of these problems. I won't forget it. I was like making some breakfast or something. He's sitting at the bar in the kitchen working through his math book, trying to get done. And he jumps up and runs out of the room and goes and grabs those stuffies and brings them back down, even 3 years later, to do the problems again. I mean, he doesn't need the stuffies. He doesn't need the manipulatives, but that's just something that has stuck with him. And he still wants to do, even so much later. He took a lot of joy out of that play, out of that situation. This same guy actually loves something that we call pug math at our house. For a long time, we had two pugs. One of them passed away earlier this year. And so pugs are like a very big, important part of our lives. And at some point, I took replacing the topics in the math word problems with the word pugs, or now it's either other dog related things. It just has to do with something with like one of our dogs or anything to do with dogs. But at first, it was just pugs. And so we would have these math word problems at our house that would read something like this. Charlie's mother served his family freshly baked pugs. If Charlie ate 15 pugs and his father ate 10 and his mother only ate 5, how many pugs were eaten in total? Now, you could say that's kind of gross, but to a 7 or 8-year-old boy, it is absolutely hilarious. And honestly, my other kids would be like completely giggling at this point as well. Every single one of them. So it doesn't really take a whole lot longer to do the lesson. You can see what I'm talking about now, where I'm saying don't go to Pinterest and try to look for fun ideas. It's really easy to do this. And the dividends that it pays towards our relationship and the atmosphere in our home are well worth the effort of being, just a little bit silly sometimes. And that's what I want you to think about as you think about ways to be playful and add laughter to your home. And this is so important. It is more about the attitude and the atmosphere of your home than it is any things that you might put on a list to do. Okay, so these are some of the needs or requirements of laughter that I've been talking about. But in my research for this talk, I've discovered a few more things about laughter that you actually might find interesting or helpful. So, first of all, we know that laughter is instinctive. We do this as babies. Nobody has to teach us how to laugh. Nobody has to tell us to laugh. But it is something that needs repeated exposure and proper conditions to flourish. We can shut down laughter and kill someone's innate desire to laugh. So back to Sophie Scott, their laughter researcher. She thinks that laughter is a skill we learn throughout our lives, all the way to our, and she thinks it's one of the most important social skills that we can acquire. And because of this, she thinks that laughter is something that we should take kind of seriously. We need to think about the things that affect our laughter, how we can encourage others to laugh, and as well as like our understanding of laughter. So I want to encourage you to do a laughter audit on occasion. So maybe when you're doing one of Misty's homeschool audits, or a periodic review with your plan your year, or Brandy's mother's journal practice that she has. Any of those times would be a great time to do a laughter audit and to ask yourself, how often are we laughing in our homeschool? When was the last time we had a really great laugh together? And what can I do to add a little more laughter to our days? How can I be intentional about it? More and more studies are showing how much laughter matters. Teenage boys who are at the risk of psychopathy do not join in when someone laughs. They don't exhibit the same patterns in their brain as you and I do when they hear laughter. So is this happening because of their inborn traits? Were they born this way? Or because they never had an opportunity to learn to laugh? Or they've never been laughed with? We can't be sure. So we want to foster an atmosphere of laughter in our homes. Now, I'm not saying that your kids are going to end up being psychopaths, but what I am saying is that this laughter thing could be way more important than what we've ever considered. And so it's worth taking a few moments and being intentional about it, and it's worth cultivating. So as you spend time on math, don't do it at the expense. Sometimes in my house, they go hand in hand. Okay, another thing that studies have shown about laughter is that humans can tell the difference between real, heartfelt laughter and polite, or fake social laughter. Our brain reacts differently to each kind. Okay, but this is where this gets kind of fun. This is also a skill that we develop through our lives. You learn to tell the difference throughout your entire life, the difference between real laughter and fake laughter. Your laughter savvy grows over time, but it doesn't peak until the age of 40. So it takes you a long time to figure out this real laughter thing. And this is interesting because that means the younger you are, the less savvy you are about real versus fake laughter. This is fabulous for us as mothers because it means we can fake it if we need to. And that the younger the kids are, the less likely they're going to realize it. This is kind of like I'm kind of off the hook here. And now, I don't want you to get me wrong. I'm not advocating that you not be genuine with your children. But if after today you're starting to feel like, gosh, this is a ton of pressure on me to always be happy, always be joyful, always be laughing. Now, Brandy says I have to have like everything planned out, ready to go. Then you have my permission to fake it when you need to. Like nights after being up with a sick baby all night long, or when you're worried about taxes or the health of a loved one. Laugh when you don't really feel like it, because the younger your kids are, the more they want to join in with the laughter. They're not going to stop to question whether it's real or not. So use that to your advantage. Which brings me to my next point about laughter. Laugh when you don't feel like it, because laughter is good for you. It actually has physical benefits. So the Bible tells us in Proverbs 17:22 that a joyful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. And eventually science started catching up with the Bible as normal. So after 1975, the medical field started realizing the connection between the neurological system and the immune systems. And at that point, more studies were done on the health benefits of laughter. So the Bible knew this a long time ago, but now science is finally figuring it out. So believe it or not, you can do something called laughter therapy and even laughter yoga because of these health benefits that science is finding out. But think about it. There are some things that laughter really does help with. One of them is blood flow. So laughter causes the tissues that form the inner linings of the blood vessel to dilate or expand, and it increases your blood flow. It also helps with your immune response. So science has determined that humor raises the level of infection-fighting antibodies and immune cells. So this is where the laughter therapy thing comes in really big. It also lowers your blood pressure just as much as cutting your salt does, which is fabulous because you can keep your food salted and laugh more and get the same benefits. 10 minutes of laughing can allow up to 2 hours of pain relief. So they did a study of patients in a rehabilitation center. They were rehabilitating after some traumatic experience, and 74% of them agreed with this statement. Sometimes laughter works as well as a pain pill. That's pretty cool. And then finally, this one is my favorite. 1 minute of laughter minutes on the rowing machine. So if I could just laugh a whole lot more during the day, I would never need to exercise. So that's something to make you happy right there. So laughter has these huge benefits to our health. Laughter is also the way we regulate our emotions together. So Sophie Scott says that we're not just emitting laughter at each other to show we like each other, but we're making ourselves feel better together when we laugh together. And this brings me to my next thought. Laughter is about connection. So long before babies can talk, they laugh. Most babies are laughing at about the age of 3 months, and it's a very sweet sound. One of the easiest ways to get babies and toddlers to laugh is by playing the game Peekaboo. They love it. Even toddlers who no longer believe that the person really disappears still delight in the simple game for really long periods of time. And it's so funny because baby Theo has been hanging out here with us at the beach house this weekend. And so yesterday I thought, I'm going to test this on him. So we don't know each other very well. We just met this weekend. Sometimes he's giving me the side eye and he's a little unsure about me. Other times, most of the time, he's really smiley. He's a great little guy. And so last night I decided I'm going to test the theory and play a little bit of peekaboo with him. And so I put the pillow up in front of my face and started popping out from behind it. And sure enough, within seconds, he was laughing hysterically, these big belly laughs of just enjoyment with this game. And I was, a virtual stranger to him. Why is this? It's about the connection. It's about the eye contact, the bond of understanding, making faces, pretending to nibble on toes, all the things that make a baby laugh, like the peekaboo game, are moments of connection with another person. They've done studies on babies and peekaboo. And this connection is vital to a baby's survival. Some scientists even think that babies are programmed to laugh in that way so they can keep you engaged, so that they get their needs met in life. This is really interesting to consider that for babies, laughter and that connection that it builds is a matter of survival. So what about for us older folks? Well, it turns out that for us, laughter is about community and connection as well. Studies have shown that we're much more likely to laugh if we're in a group than if we are watching or if we're reading something funny. So they did a study of kids watching funny television programs. And in that study, the kids laughed far more often when they were watching the program with another person. In fact, if the child was watching alone, they would often try to turn and catch the eye of the researcher just to be able to share that laugh. Instinctively, we want to share laughter with others and not just do it by ourselves. So they found out that people are 30 times more likely to laugh when they're with someone else than when they're by themselves. So think about the last time that you read a funny Facebook meme and laughed. Two things likely happened. One, you wanted to share it with somebody else. And the good side of Facebook is built on this desire, by the way, that desire to share funny things. I mean, that's what you do. You hit the share button. We're not going to talk about the other side of Facebook because that would just be depressing. But your first instinct when you read that meme was to show someone else, either somebody in person in the room or to hit the share button and share it on your feed so you could share the laugh with them. Now, if you were in a room with other people, the next thing that likely happened was that someone wanted to know, and very keenly, I might add, why you were laughing. They don't let that die, do they? Especially when it's something that's not appropriate for kids. Why are you laughing, Mom? Huh? What's so funny? So your laughter had them extremely curious as to what was causing you to laugh. And you probably, if it was appropriate, turned eagerly to share it. But sharing laughter goes beyond sharing jokes. In fact, the majority of our laughter isn't prompted from jokes or things designed to make us laugh. Most of the time, we laugh with our family and friends. And this takes the pressure off of us. We don't need to be performing all the time, telling jokes or trying funny things. Most of our laughter springs from our everyday conversation and antics. We laugh to show people that we understand them, we agree with them, and we're part of the same group as they are. Laughter forms connections that people crave and need, and these connections bond us closer together. St. Francis de Sales said, "Laughter is the foundation of reconciliation." Or from Victor Borge, "Laughter is the shortest distance between two people." The more we laugh together, the stronger our bonds are going to be. Which brings me to my final point about laughter. It's all about communication. So think back to the laughed more with others than they laughed alone. Adding more people to the room did not increase the amount of laughter. It only took one additional person to do that. So this leads researchers to think that laughter is actually a signal that passes from one person to the next. At its very basic level, it's a form of how we communicate with each other. Laughter helps people feel like they belong. If that's two people, or a crowd at a comedy show, or even a family unit, we feel like we belong together when we laugh together. So as we strive to make connections in our family and build our family culture, something we talk about doing through practices like morning time, it's important to remember that laughter is such an important part of that. Morning time is a time of day that we can meet the needs of laughter that I talked about earlier. We can share ideas. We can read aloud, as Cindy said. We take the time to slow down. We create an atmosphere where it's okay to make mistakes and where we can model the value of laughter to our kids. Laughter is contagious, and we're more likely to catch laughter from someone else if we know them. Laughing with your family isn't going to be very difficult. You aren't going to have to study comedians or scribble joke crib notes into your teacher binder. You just have to leave time for it. Share ideas, communicate, loosen up on the shoulds or your preconceived notions about the atmosphere of learning and what it's supposed to look like. Create a culture of laughter in your home. It's more about letting go of barriers than adding new things, and you can do it.